Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Professor Udenta, who is the founding National Secretary, Alliance for Democracy, and also Distinguished Fellow, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming on today.
It's a pleasure to be with you guys this morning.
Good to see you as well.
For having me. Yes.
Yeah, so let's delve into getting your social and political thoughts about what's going on in our polity at this point in time. So many scenarios. We're trying to see if they could sort themselves out with a tax bill. We're looking to see how the legislature will relate to the executive next Tuesday when they come with the budget. And then we have several other scenarios that affect Nigerians. So for you, seeing how the leadership of the country seems to be steering the ship of state, how do you think we're faring?
In this very studio, several times and several studios across town, I made a statement, almost like a prediction, that the president, Bola Tinubu, wants to transcend the political state, to overcome the political class, and then deal with issues of policy directly. The moment you do it, you lose the plot in terms of governance. The tax reform base is an example. It was sent to the National Assembly, not for any robust debate, not for any contestation of ideas, but to get a quick passage. But he did it by bypassing the political establishment. So when the 19 governors in the north and the traditional authorities went and said no to those bills, and the NEC followed quickly, that's where the trouble started, as I predicted. So if you do not engage the political establishment, the political order, around which is built your own presidency, you will never succeed in governing this country the way he wants to govern. That's number one. Number two, broadly speaking, if you look at the issues, germane now in the polity, our democracy is decomposing or decaying rather rapidly. People don't witness that because they live their daily life, the daily challenges, the struggle of inflationary pressure, no money to buy fuel, difficulty in accessing drugs. These are critical issues. Budget debate to come, tax base issues. They don't see the broad spectrum of the situation the country is undergoing through. 4 elements, again in this studio, I pointed out. 1, lawfare has become a critical ingredient of governance. What is lawfare? We weaponize not only the criminal justice system, you use the vast apparatuses or resources of the judicial authority to persecute dissent. It happened with those little boys who were picked from various states and locations, kept for 3 months from the purview of the public, many dying or collapsing. Today, there's no accountability. When it was done, reasonable found in order to put a condition of chill and fear and trepidation among the populace, not to protest. If kids could be tried for treason, but reasonable felonies do not dare protest or resist or campaign against this government. Number 2, say the personal matter you can call it of Dele Farotimi. Let's look at lawfare. 1, rendition from Lagos to Ekiti. Within 24 hours, already in jail. 2, the same magistrate denied bail for a matter that is ordinary. Defamation is an ordinary matter. There's no physical injury. There's no violence, physical violence on you. Look at the one of Edo State, when the party chairman of APC talked about billions being stolen by former governor, former candidate. One has taken him to court, which is okay. Secondly, High Court with the IGP suing him, lend services quickly. 3, another judge in Abuja did what? Stop the sale of the books. An order on all the publishing houses and all the bookshops, all the outlets.
So you think this is choreographed?
Beyond that, there's another one. He's now being asked to be debarred from practices by LPDC, Legal Protection, Disciplinary Committee. There's yet another one, number 4, 5. So this is like somebody who is not unknown. He's a broad, robust critique of the government. He's almost like an enemy of state. So if you put down Dele Farotimi, you put down the entire apparatus of resistance from that side to say, there you don't go there. Look at Unity Fountain. It is now frozen, almost gated. But Bola Tinubu, the current president, and others exploited that particular empowered civic space. Bring back the girls. Go there to do protest. The police and the army will swoop on you. That's number 1. The critical justice system is weaponized to erode democratic governance. It can move. Look at parties. the way they're crumbling, the way they're facing internal and external pressures, PDP, Labour Party. It is to create the condition for one-party state, so the president can visually walk back into, re-enter power in 2027. So the political party leaders should watch it. If you do not support and build the guardrails of democratic governance to protect democracy, this country, whether you present budget next week, whether you do your tax reform bigs, democracy will increasingly diminish. Look at the media. In this particular studio, an issue came out with Guardian, when the spokesman of the president left his busy schedules and decided to attack Guardian for promoting coup making and coup plotting. And I said, no. It is to put fear not in the Guardian, in Channels, in AIT, in Arise, everywhere, to say there are many things you have to self-censor. You cannot examine certain conditions of the state. You do not talk about poverty being weaponized against the people. You don't talk about life becoming increasingly miserable and desolate for everybody. If you do so, you may become not only an enemy of state, an enemy of democracy. In context, therefore, why we as patriots, more so with somebody like me with a higher moral burden, front row in the construction of this edifice of the Fourth Republic, suffering 6 detentions in that direction. Founding Secretary of Alliance for Democracy, as you put out there.
I was just about to say, is it the same AD that metamorphosed into AC, ACN, and then now APC?
AD did not metamorphose into ACN. The process of AD movement or parchments of AD with ACN, the process of contamination. AD was an ideologically clear, civic-minded political front that fought Abacha from Nadeko time. They became a registered political party to contest election.
So that was a platform.
Thereafter, the party self-imploded. 2-3 years after formation. So a rump of the party, not a progressive rump, which Tinubu was leading, found itself reconstructed as AC. Then merged with another party to become ACN and ultimately expanded into the legacy party to form APC. So AD and ACN and APC are totally different formations. One is ideologically inclined, the other one just SPV, special purpose vehicles for the sake and purposes of power acquisition.
That's the AD?
No, not AD. The AC, the ACN.
No. The AD, I remember, was the same platform that this current president ran to be governor of Lagos State.
Yes, sure.
That's the same AD?
Yes, it's the AD.
That imploded.
But in 1981-82, the party imploded effectively. So the rump of fate...
In 2003?
But 2003, the rump of fate that he now led into ACN was not the regional ancestral foundation of the party. That remained the hell of a very, and your Debanjo them and the rest of Padesanya, Bolaige before he died and so on. So that AC and ACN to APC has no linkage in terms of ancestry, in terms of ideological and moral fiber with the regional AD that we formed in 1998.
What made it implode, though?
It's a process that one cannot describe in a very short conversation like this, but I can summarize it. Internal tensions between the idea of the party as a pan-national movement and the party as an insular formation with a limited range in terms of its projection. 2, that contestation of ideological direction, a party that is cast in the mode of not just seeking for power, but protecting democratic governance, civil liberties, media freedom, and so on, even when you don't get power. Or a party that must, at all costs and every condition and circumstance, seek and secure political power.
Yeah, but I mean, one would think, it means then that the president today is no stranger to you.
I didn't say he's a stranger to me.
No, I'm just...
Of course, he's not a stranger to me.
Yeah.
And that is essential reason why we have a platform like this. When you speak to power, you speak to power in a manner that people we know will resonate with the greater majority of Nigerian people. Sometimes people go to power to speak privately. Sometimes what you speak may not be hard, but it's important that you use public engagement to deal with issues of public concern. Democracy is not an affair of me or you, Udenta or Bola Tinubu as a president. It's an affair for the totality of the Nigerian public. His fate is not in our hands as few individuals. His fate in the hands of millions of our people. So if I have a personal relationship or not with the president, it's not important. We regard to the head of our democracy.
Whether you are surprised that somebody who, once ran on the platform of that, party, the AD, which, had a lot of things, you know, a value system, a belief in the ideals of democracy. There's somebody who ran on that platform and at least, you know, attested to some of these things that you are now talking about, you know, that the tenets of democracy will be eroded so fast, so decaying and decomposing. Those are the words that you use.
I did mention, again, I'm happy that my conversation today was like a reflection.
Yeah.
The things I've talked about and put out in the public domain for the past 4 months are things which I'm even rehashing. I did say here there's a process of contamination. That contamination is when you, from a high moral, ideological, or intellectual perspective, have a predilection, a mindset on how to do business. But over time, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that's an enormous amount of time. There's always a decay of thought and a contamination of the self. From the movement of AD, the moment AC and ACM became SPVs, that means there is no moral force driving it or imperative on which it is anchored. It is just how do we get power for the sake of power. You lose the historic conditioning of the earlier years when AD was ideologically formulated.
Well,
you become increasingly compromised in your search for power, and it can behave then anyhow, independent of how you behaved in the past.
So you are not surprised?
If you get APC, what is APC? Look at the cast of characters. We had the former president for 8 years. How did they run the country? What did he represent? Moral clarity, ideological solidity, philosophical depth or direction, and his team. When you combine all that to say we must seize power for the sake of power, you lose the founding element of your own historical formation. That means the AD of 98 can no longer be the APC of 2015 or 2023.
If I could take you to how you try to compartmentalize some of these challenges, to the first point, where you talked about trying to transcend and then go to deal with policies directly.
Absolutely.
So now, because sometimes it comes across in a certain way, but some of what we found out while trying to find out if engagement happened at all, to what extent, is that, I mean, the head of that committee, Taiwo Idele, we've heard him say consistently in several fora that the president did not interfere or intervene whatever they were doing. They told them, look, you're a professional group, do your job. And so it turned out that this group actually engaged and put up notices for several people and several professional groups, associations, for engagement. Even the Governors Forum, even NEC, in their minutes, if they publish the minutes of their meetings, you see, but at some point, they couldn't actually engage with him the way they ought to have. So engagement to some extent.
So multiplicity of stakeholder groups woke up overnight and said, oh my God, this thing we have been persuaded to be part of that engagement process. We didn't participate. We suddenly saw them with the National Assembly. Let us now engage. That's not how you do engagement. Even the military, even under Babangida, the military, SAP debate, political reform debate. Remember, the cookie report itself. You announce an idea. You generate the momentum for that idea. Then you constitute a team, maybe headed by the taxman, and said, take it to everybody, not a narrow, quiet, professional engagement with small groups.
Yeah, but so that's the thing. It may appear as though it's narrow, quiet, but we also need to interrogate that process of engagement and find out, was it really narrow and quiet?
I say if it was not comprehensively narrow, there would be people now shouting and screaming at the rooftop.
But these are politicians. They do these things to leverage.
No, what you have is that you have 4 bills already made as law, almost ready to be made as law.
But the issue they had was one.
No, there are bills, 4 of them. I'm not an expert in tax laws and policies, but there are 4 there. The next thing we heard was that the 19 governors from the north and the traditional rulers they met and decided that these bills, maybe through the senators and the reps who represent them, their states in the National Assembly, said, we have these bills here. We don't think there's enough input from people. You just have to look at it again and say, what are the implications? Yeah. Then from there to NEC, no longer the governors of the north alone, the governors of the south too, and the vice president sitting together and said, take these bills away, because we don't even know the extent of the engagement. Okay, so, Prof, so now you're not doing engagement as putting the cart before the horse.
So let me ask you then, I mean, notwithstanding and with respect to everybody's perspective on that matter, people have a right to, of course, speak up. But if the bill was sent to the National Assembly, and then they said that it's going to be a public hearing, are we assuming that really all of the processes in the National Assembly doesn't matter, because when bills get to them, there's a process. We say that.
If you look at the structure of the National Assembly as we have today, politicians and Nigerians are no fools. A Bola Saraki, that is a Bukola Saraki National Assembly, people may have more regard and respect and said, if you do a thorough job, it will not roll over because the executive have belched or hiccuped. If you stand its ground as an independent, autonomous arm of government and said, we will deal with this on its value, on its merit. But you have a National Assembly that is a rubber stamp, completely caved in, cartoonish to the executive branch. It is clear. Even with the issue of the presidential jail, we don't even know today whether it was even appropriate. We don't even know. They don't care. I'm coming. The state president have said it. We don't care what the president sings to us. Whatever he gives to us, we pass through. People are not saying, we don't trust you.
There are so many issues.
That's your president.
I hope we can cover a lot of grounds. But when you say the rubber stamp, I know we've said...
Not the rubber stamp. It's worse than a rubber stamp.
Oh, dear.
It is worse than a rubber stamp. Okay, and they know it. And Nigerians know it. Incredibly, they know it to be true.
Okay, so if we're asking that we should listen to, for instance, maybe the governors or other groups that are asking, withdraw the bill. Are we not lending our voices?
I'm not saying withdraw the bill.
No, assuming people...
Say, let's debate and discuss the bill, as ought to have done earlier.
That's
if the president...
Where do we debate that?
When you have a presidency that is narcissistic in nature, if you throw in a dash of possible egocentrism, the sense of invulnerability, we can't do wrong, we can't go wrong, we must do it our way, then you find a difficulty in people's smooth and strategic engagement. When you have a presidency, I'm not saying president, presidency now is bigger in scope, and is listening, humble, aware of the limits of his power, but the enormity of his responsibilities. Let us do this in the way it is normally done. NEC is not me and you. It's not a civic speaks engagement. NEC is government. It's headed by the VP, who said, if these bills are so problematic, take them back and retool them and rework them. No, we are not taking them back. We must stay in the National Assembly and you must get past, go and talk whatever you want to talk there.
So, Prof,
that is narcissism. That is egocentrism.
Are you aware that there are people in the presidency who also push back at some of these policies and saying, look, this cannot happen this way because the people feel a certain way? Because it comes across as though presidency all together in a certain way.
Clearly, I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a voodoo artist. I'm not some sort of a shamanist. I don't know whether anybody in the presidency is pushing back or pushing forward. What you see is what is in the public domain, what is presented to us. The internal conversations is for those people who are privy to those conversations. We see what is outside there. What is outside there is a deliberate attempt by a presidency, narrowly constituted, very narrowly constituted, very limited in scope, both in intellect and strategic dimension,
Prof,
to do incredible amount of damage to the democratic governments in the country.
Prof, you're a scholar, and I know you know that what is out there in the public domain usually is not the full story. So I do know.
Like I said, I'm not privy to that.
So let's go to the lawfare part, which you spoke about. Because the way it also comes across is that, look, this is happening with breakneck speed, how they all seem to be coming together. So in that regard, for the... Oh, it's deliberate.
To achieve a strategic purpose.
Is there anything that the executive arm of government can do to say, look, this is not going to look good on the entire, let's say, leadership of this country, both executive, judiciary, and legislature? Also bearing in mind that there is a principle of separation of powers. Because if judiciary keeps going like this, everybody will say, this government.
Theoretically, and many legal experts, Prosecutor Udenta and the rest of them, they're waiting on this point. So I'm not even as qualified as they are. But as a student of society and politics and history, I do know when society is balanced in terms of the arms of government doing what they ought to do. The National Assembly for me today is non-existent. I want to push it further beyond being a rubber stamp. They have to watch and listen. They have to send somebody here to push back on this conversation. They have the right of reply. We founded this republic. I'm not coming from a place in which is esoteric. I paid my dues. A few of us still alive who constructed this edifice. We can't allow it to dissipate the way they are doing. The National Assembly cannot play the role as it is presently constituted. The judiciary suddenly somehow seems to have lost its direction. Let me know certain things that may not be appropriate. So don't expect anything to happen in that regard. What you find now is some level of contaminancies, some linkages and affinities between both the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branch to create, if not a one-party state, a state in which multi-party democracy is comprehensively weakened. Civic spaces have shrunk to the degree in which no more guests to bring back. After all, there are many Chibok guests still not brought back, Dapchi guests not brought back, but yet the places are silent. A system in which the media is frightened, and Labour seems to have gone under because there is a robust attempt to bring a condition of trepidation, fear, and cheer on the population. Ask yourself, the president himself led the charge in 2012 in the press against Jonathan and fuel subsidy. And then, of course, the bring up the 2014 was a global phenomenon. Today, those things which brought him to power criminalized before our very eyes. For lawfare specifically, the design, I may not be a lover of Trump and whatever he represents, but there was lawfare with regard to him, through impeachments, felony conviction, mugshots, and then almost 300 or 200 charges across multiplicity of courts. That's the weaponization of the justice system of a sort. To do what? Achieve the purpose of neutralizing politically. So in this our regard, it will not happen the way you speculate it will happen, because there's a purpose, a strategic end. The end is that the deliverer optimist must be silenced, not him as an individual, but what tendency represents, that brusque, raw energy of resistance and protest must be caged. So
you say if they succeed in this,
succeed in destroying him, not just legally, but as a human, people will be frightened to say, look at what happened to Delefaro Timi. He's bigger than you. Dare you tread where he treaded? That's a sense of lawfare. So lawfare may not be directly in the hands of the government in this regard, because of course Baba Babalola is not government, of course establishment man anyway, but government profits out of the mess Dele has found himself in, because if he is debarred, if he's silenced, if he's jailed, there are thousands of Dele optimists in this country who are equally potent in the agitation for a better democratic society. Those ones will be frightened to the bone marrow. That is a sense of lawfare.
I do not want to, dismiss, and I don't think anyone can dismiss the things that you have said, especially when you cite the examples that you have cited.
Sure.
However, some people will say that, some of the conclusions that you have reached are quite hasty. The Dele Farotimi case, for instance, this book was written 5 months ago. There was absolutely no reaction from anywhere until recently when Baba Afe Babalola, raised objection with what it is that was in the book.
5 months.
5 months.
Nobody saw it.
Nobody saw it. I mean,
didn't see the book.
It's the book.
It wasn't brought to his attention.
Mr. Dele
but suddenly, within 24 hours.
Just a moment. Mr. Dele Farotimi was even out there, granting interviews, and there was no, hell didn't come, didn't break loose until this particular instance where I read Babalola, said that, look, I have been defamed. Yeah. And then we saw, how it has been handled. And it wasn't just that. It was that he corrupted. The allegation was that he corrupted justices of the Supreme Court. So the reputation also of the Supreme Court is also at stake here.
Okay.
So in this...
No, I get it too. I get it.
Yes.
Now, if in 5 months there was not a blip, not a whimper, suddenly in 48 hours there was extraordinary rendition. There was a hasty thing for me, I may be wrong, with the magistrate court. Within 24 hours, he was already inside jail. After 9 days, he was still put back to jail for another 10 days, not for murder charge, not for high treason, for defamation, as he talked as that's a charge. Criminal defamation, as big as it is nonsense for a public officer or a high-flying legal practitioner. If I were to be Babalola, I would take it in my stride. Look at Obaseki, what the PC chairman said. He can read these figures correctly because he's a thief. He has stolen billions. But the former governor of Edo State, yes, the candidate of the party in PDP, Idahola, has gone to court, which for me is like catalyzed and incentivized by Babalola.
Yeah,
but I'm coming because if you call me as the president, as the governor, I'm a thief. Excuse me, it is part of the job. If the kitchen is too hot for you, do not enter it. As a Secretary of Alliance for Democracy, leaders of the party in the country, years and decades older than me, led by my own father, but I can call his father, like Udenta, and just sat down and called the worst precursor and said, you know what he said? Udenta is cash and carry. He goes to Villa to collect money to destroy AD.
No,
I didn't kill anybody. I didn't go to any court.
I don't think that you
I'm saying that you have the right to say, I protest against this defamation. I can take it to court.
Yeah.
But when you take it to magistrate court, high court, another high court, they bar him from practice, strip him of his humanity.
Has it been barred from practice?
They said that's the petition now, and they have accepted it within the 4 hours. They accepted the petition. I can even.
Do you think? Just a moment. Do you think that this
and the judge within 1 day,
Professor,
actually, you know what the judge
do you think
granted the prayer that the book should be pulled back?
Just a moment. Do you think that this could be the judiciary fighting back? Because also don't forget that the judiciary's reputation is because this will certainly have raised a lot of interest in the book, and a lot of people
fighting back.
Do you think that's the question?
I'm saying even the term fighting back is anathema to the judiciary. No matter how well you're beaten, you don't fight back. The law is precise and clear. The jurisprudential condition of the state is very, very clear. But you don't fight back. You know what you do? When you fight back, because of the instrumentality of power you have, the vast resources at your disposal, that is lawfare.
All right. Ayo's got questions for you as well. Go ahead, please.
Well, it's in the same light, Chamberlain, actually, because it wasn't just Are Babalola that was defamed. Another lawyer, legal practitioner, has also sued the author of that book that we're talking about. And there are a number of people who have also said, look, you know what, our names are there, but let the legal luminary be the one that is at the front. And as you said, as Marquez said, Prof, it is only natural that the judiciary would want to clean its own stable using whatever instance available to them. But it's the one that feels it and knows it, Prof, don't you think? Being defamed after about 60 years or 40-something years of practicing law in the country, it is a grievous offense. It's a grievous allegation that anyone, even if it was you, you wouldn't want to take it lightly because you built that credibility over decades. And then one book wants to take it all away from you. It will be difficult to act ultra-vires, don't you think?
Okay, I get the point you're trying to make, but it doesn't gel in the context of this, the broad conversation about lawfare and so on. If I build a reputation for 60 years, it will take not one book, it will take about 60,000 books to put me down. Absolutely. Because my credentials, my endeavor, my patriotic services, everything there have already been cast in stone. It doesn't mean I won't be angry and bitter that I'm being defamed. Yes, surely, you're human, you're not God. So what you do in that regard is to do the minimum, not the maximum. The minimum would be to have tried him in Lagos, for example, where it is just a normal civil trial, not to rendition him to Kitty, then get a magistrate to get him to jail within 24 hours, then get another high court from the IGP now, no longer. Babalola himself as Baba, to do the job, get another judge in Abuja. The moment you escalate this warfare, legal warfare, to the point in which it has become almost toxic, that is where the lawfare comes in. We even diminish your own humanity as the grand master of the law, to say the largeness of your heart, the compassion of your soul, which is seen over 60 decades or more of practice, cannot just be hampered by this particular instance.
Isn't that in a way, Prof, trivializing what the issues are, Prof? Just 1 second. Isn't that trivializing what the issues are? Because on the one hand, as you said, it was something that occurred in Lagos, but the impact has gone global. The book is already acclaimed to be a bestseller on Amazon, and Amazon is not based in Lagos. So don't you think that the argument of jurisdiction is already traversed with the fact that the book has gone global?
I'm talking about the mindset, the psychological disposition of the person who feels is defamed. If a book has gone global, your Abuja-based court decision will not stop the book being global. The book can be pirated into 1 billion copies by people across the world. Amazon and other even dark sites, not Amazon, could decide to populate it, pirate it. So you've not achieved anything. You've actually done what is called, is it the strike, or I remember the actress who went to court over a matter that was limited in scope and ended up getting the whole world to know about it. So this is a matter you handle very carefully, because once it's out there in the public domain, out there in the cyberspace, out there in the e-media world, there's no way you can control it, no matter the kind of injunctions or court decisions you get. But beyond that even, because I don't want to narrow my conversation with you on the specific conditioning of Babalola and that of Baru TB, is for me the broad spectrum of the way democracy is decomposing. And I thought about lawfare, I thought about civil spaces shrinking, I thought about multi-party democracy under stress and pressure. PDP, Labour Party, being pressure from outside. And the beneficiary of the pressure between two parties is the president and the presidency and his own party. So I'm following the media. The biggest guardrail of democratic governance and protects the media. The moment this third estate loses its mojo in what? The moment you lose that capacity to talk and speak to power, our democracy is going to leap into totalitarianism, not just illiberalism. It is something we should be worried about. We deal with the issue of the budget next week. If you invite me, I can look at it, study it best I can. We deal with the tax issues. When you say I didn't examine the tax issues, I'm not a tax expert. I look at the context of the production of the bill, and then the way and manner you handle is deliberate push. And the moment you transcend the political state or look at the state with contempt, politicians will bite back at you.
I already asked you a question if you're surprised that, President Bola Tinubu is leading the country, this democracy.
I said I'm not surprised because I thought about contamination. I said, if we were to have this conversation 20 odd years ago, I said I'll be surprised. 20 years later, a lot of water must have passed under the bridge.
All right, it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this play out, because it does come across as though the judiciary or the system will be making, what Mr. Farutimi's point, if, from what you say, if they go along that trajectory continuously, if they are seen to quote-unquote fight back, how will one then get justice if judiciary, as it were, is fighting back?
It's a massive power.
So those are some of the issues out there for people to continue deliberating upon. But Prof, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's
All
a
right,
pleasure
so
to have you guys.
Business Morning comes up on the hour. Don't go away.